In each week's lecture video, I will briefly summarize the required reading for the week. So please listen to this lecture after you read chapters 3, 4, and 5. Chapter 3 talks about how to select and define target behavior. We, as practitioners, want to improve students' or clients' socially important behavior that immediate and long-lasting meaning for the person and for those who interact with that person. Therefore, before we teach new behavior, we will select important target behavior to the individual. But to figure out what is important to the individual, we need to do some assessment to figure out the person's strengths and weaknesses across developmental domains. Four major areas for obtaining assessment information are interviews, checklists, tests, and direct observation. Interviews and checklists are direct assessment approaches because the data obtained from these measures are derived from recollections, reconstructions, or subjective ratings of events. Tests and direct observation are considered direct assessment approaches because they provide information about a person's behavior as it direct observation and repeated observations of clients' behavior in the natural environment are the preferred methods for determining which behaviors to target for change. A basic form of direct continuous observation is called anecdotal observation or called ABC It looks like this. This is an example of ABC analysis. By having repeated observation, you will figure out what happened just before the target behavior, what happened just after the target behavior. So by having multiple observation, you will figure out the contingency, the connections between A, B, and C. This is the example for George. So after you create a list of behavior of interest, like for example for George, include humming loudly, telling an inappropriate joke, blah blah blah. Whenever you see this type of behavior, you will record what happened before the behavior and what happened after the behavior, and you will identify possible functions for each instance. So you will record ABC and possible function too. We again want to improve students' or clients' socially important behavior. So target behavior in applied behavior analysis must be socially significant behavior that will increase a person's habilitation. Habilitation is a new term also known as just adjustment or competence. So the definition of habilitation is the degree to which a person's behavior repertoire maximizes short and long-term reinforcers and minimizes short and long-term punishers. This term is frequently used when applied behavior analysis or practitioners when they set target behaviors or when they measure the meaningfulness of behavior change. So it's a very popular term, habilitation. Judgments about how much a particular behavior change will contribute to a person's overall habilitation are difficult to make, but we generally consider several things to judge social significance and habilitation value of the target behavior. For example, when we plan to teach new behaviors, we can consider if the potential target behaviors are age appropriate or not. Because, for example, for a 21 years old woman, we do not want to teach basic play skills like toy play, right? We want to consider more age appropriate so she can function age appropriately in the society. That's our goal. Once you determine the eligible target behaviors, you have to make decisions about which behavior you can focus on first. So you have to decide the priority. To decide that priority, you can use the following 9 questions from your text. It will help you determine which behavior deserve attention first and the next. So the first question is does this behavior pose any danger to the client or to others? The second question, how many opportunities will the person have to use these new behaviors? Number 3, how long-standing is the problem or skill deficit? Number 4, will changing this behavior produce higher rates of reinforcement for the person? Number 5, what will be the relative importance of this target behavior to future skill development and independent functioning? Number 6, will changing this behavior reduce negative or unwanted attention from others? Number 7, will this new behavior produce reinforcement for significant others? Number 8, how likely is success in changing this target behavior? Number 9, how much will it cost to change this behavior? By answering these 9 questions, you can get some idea which behavior you can go first, right? Once you set the priority, then you have to define your target behavior. Well-written definition of target behavior is very important and it is necessary for practitioner. So when other people see your objective, your target behavior, they should be able to understand clearly understand what you are doing and what kind of behavior you are focusing on. So your target behavior must be observable, measurable, and repeatable. A good definition of a target behavior provides an accurate, complete, and concise description of the behavior to be changed, and it also states what is not included in the behavioral definition. So your well-written target behavior must satisfy these 5. Now, once you set the target behavior and define the target behavior, you should consider how to measure the behavior because we want to know if there will be some progress in students' target behavior after you deliver some interventions, right? So we want to see the behavior change by measuring the behavior change. So the official definition of measurement is the process of applying quantitative labels to observed properties of events using a standard set of rules. So you will observe the behavior and record and quantify the behavior. Of course, researchers need to know about how to measure the behavior change effectively, but in real life, practitioners need to know about measurement because behavior practitioners like you, teachers and therapists, are dedicated to improving the lives of clients and students they serve by changing socially significant behavior. By learning and knowing about measurement, practitioner will be able to find effective intervention for their clients or students. Especially, they can use evidence-based intervention as it is required by law now. And they will be able to have a good eye to determine the effectiveness of or validity of specific intervention by looking at previous intervention data or previous research. So practitioners can be more ethical and cautious when they choose interventions. Behavior has features that can be measured because behavior occurs within and across time. It has three fundamental properties, or called dimensional quantities, that behavior analysis can measure. These three properties include repeatability, or called countability, temporal extent, and temporal locus. So repeatability or countability. Instance of a response class can occur repeatedly through time. So we can count the behavior. Response class is defined as a group of responses of varying forms, all of which produce the same effect on the environment. For example, I say hi, or I wave hand. These two behavior look different, but has same function, same consequence. To greet other people, right? So waving hand and saying hi, these two behavior looks different, has different forms, but these two behavior has produced the same effect, right? So we say these two behavior are in a same response class. So that's the response class. And then temporal extent. Every instance of behavior occurs during some amount of time. So the duration of behavior can be measured. The last one, temporal locus. Every instance of behavior occurs at a certain point in time with respect to other events. So when behavior occurs, can be measured. So we can measure behavior, we can count the behavior, duration of behavior can be measured, and when behavior occur can be measured because of the behavior's properties. So here's some data collection methods I want to mention, because you will collect data later for your project. So the event recording methods includes frequency, rate, and percentage. So frequency is to measure the number of times a behavior occurs within a specified period. To use frequency, the observation in each session should be identical, so you will use telemark to count the behavior within specified time. Frequency is good one when a target behavior has a clear beginning and end, and the target behavior is uniform in length, like heating. So you can use frequency when your target behavior is to be easily counted. Rate is a frequency of behavior and its relationship to time. So you will divide the number of behavior occurred by time, minute or second. So when you report your data, you will say, for example, three times per minute, 5 times in 10 minutes, such things. Percentage is the number of correct compared with the number of opportunity. You can use this for frequency and interval recording. Duration is a length of time a behavior occurs within a specified period. So when you are interested in how long it takes for the student to complete the task, for example, For example, of Betty, after checking her schedule and retrieving the wash hands picture, how long does it take Betty to go to the bathroom, wash your hands, and return? So you will record from beginning moment to the ending moment. Latency is the length of time between the presentation of SD and the initiation of the behavior. So some students are very reluctant to initiate a behavior. So when you are interested in those kind of behavior, for example, here, given the SD, everyone take out pencil. How long does it take for the student to start taking out his pencil? So when you have this kind of interest, then you can use latent. Interval recording, there are two types of different interval recording: whole interval and partial interval. To use interval recording systems, you need to divide an observation session into short and equal intervals, and the occurrence of the behavior within each interval is recorded. So let's say the observation time is 5 minutes. You divide the observation time into short equal intervals like 10 seconds. Then you will have 6 intervals in each minute for 5 minutes, right? So whole interval, you will see if the behavior continuously occur within the 10-second interval without any stopping points. The behavior should occur continuously from 0 second to 10 second. Partial interval, you will just record whether a behavior occurs at any time within the 10-second interval. So you will just see if the behavior happened or not at all within each interval. Momentary time sampling is basically similar to the interval recording systems, but this one used larger interval, like 5 minute, 10 minutes. So you will set the timer for 5 minutes and 10 minutes, and then whenever timer goes off, like every 5 minutes or 10 minutes, you will look up and see if the target student is doing the target behavior at that moment. So it is good for a teacher, busy teacher, because the teacher, they do not have to observe the child for whole sessions, right? We just talked about behavior's dimensional quantities and the behavior data collection system. But behavior can also be defined and measured by its form and intensity. I just want to introduce some terms, new terminology. So the form is called topography. So the physical form or shapes of a behavior, it's called topography. Sometimes you have to describe how the behavior looks like. That's topography. Magnitude refers to the force or intensity with which a response is emitted. Although it's not a fundamental quality of behavior, sometimes it's considered important when researcher considers things like voice volume, sounds, such things. Sometimes the behavior can be measured by permanent product. This is not an observation-based method, but it's frequently used. Measuring behavior after it has occurred by measuring the effects that the behavior produced on the environment is known as measurement by permanent product. So, for example, when a teacher checks if a student has finished homework or assignment, or after a math class, if a teacher checks if the student has complete the worksheet for the class or something. So the teacher does not have to look at the child for whole time, but the teacher will check if the student has finished something or not after. This is the last slide. We just talked about data collection system and data collection. Now I want to introduce another new terminology. It's called procedure integrity. Sometimes researchers collect data on independent variable, which is intervention. Most of the time, researchers collect data on dependent variable, which is the behavior, because a researcher wants to know if the behavior increases or decreases with the intervention by measuring the target behavior. The target behavior is dependent variable. But sometimes researchers collect data on independent variable, which is intervention, because they want to know that they deliver the intervention correctly, like with high fidelity. So, for example, researchers created a list of step of intervention. So they have a step of intervention. So whenever they deliver the intervention, they check if each of the step of the intervention was implemented correctly, and see, make sure they deliver the intervention with high fidelity, with high accuracy. So when researchers do collect data on their independent variable, the information is referred to as procedure integrity. Other names like treatment integrity, intervention fidelity, or intervention reliability. Now, for this week, you have to finish this iris case study. The link is available on your syllabus and on Blackboard. You can click this link, then you will see this page. So you will complete this iris case study on defining behavior. In the second page, you will see the table of contents. And as highlighted, you will see 6 case study, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 2 case studies for each level, 2 case studies for level A, 2 for level B, 2 for level 3. You will pick 1 case study for each level, 1 case study for A, 1 case study for B, 1 case study for C, and then you will complete the assignment. So, for example, this is the case study 2 in level A, then you will see this assignment highlighted. So you will complete this assignment and open a document file and write your answer and save it, and then you will turn in your assignment to Blackboard. Let me know if you have any question. Email me at sunnykim@uic.edu, or you can join our online office hour on Wednesday.